Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Edmonton Oilers Throwback 2010 franchise mode here in NHL 25. So in last episode, if you did not catch it, we simulated the rest of the season, and we have made the playoffs with a 47-30-5 record, and we will be taking on the Chicago Blackhawks for the first time in our series that we're doing here. So it's going to be really an interesting one. Both these teams are pretty solid teams, I would say, as you can see by the comparison. They were better offensively 5-on-5. We were better defensively 5-on-5. And then they technically had better special teams, but I wouldn't say the power play was that much better, but they were a top 10 power play. We were 15th. So obviously they have the special teams advantage and also the goal scoring advantage. However, I do think we could still beat them because we have much better depth. So it will be interesting to see what ends up happening in the series, but hopefully we can find a way to contain guys like Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews and find ourselves into that second round, hopefully. We didn't make any trades also in last episode, but we did actually make a waiver claim, which normally we don't claim players on waivers too often, but there was a better depth option that we could pick up, so we decided to claim off waivers Patrick Marleau, who's 39 years old at this point. He already played a few games due to some other players getting injured, but 2 points in 6 games. I'm hoping if he does get into the lineup during this playoff run that we could obviously get him some good goal scoring as well, because he is still a decent player, but obviously he's dropped off a lot. It would be nice if we could find a way to get him that Stanley Cup win, but basically I think he was a really nice addition because of the fact that originally it had Jujhar Khaira as a depth option as a 75, and obviously Jujhar Khaira is not really a hugely great player anyways, so when we saw that Marleau was on waivers, it was kind of almost like a no-brainer to basically up our depth a little bit. So yeah, I'm excited to see what this team could do in the playoffs. Obviously, we've made the playoffs the last few years, but this team hasn't had success in quite a bit. So hoping for guys like Cameron to step up. Obviously, you could see back in 2031, which would have been, I guess, technically, trying to remember what year that was, like 2016, I guess. Yeah, that would have been 2015-16. We had a really nice little run, but since then we've been a first-round exit the last 2 years. So hoping that we can find a good run this year and maybe find ourselves to a conference finals at least this season. But if we could find a way to win a Stanley Cup, that'd be even better, just because the series is not gonna run for that much longer, because as of this recording, I am recording this technically on the Saturday before you guys see this on the Monday, which means this episode technically goes on the 18th, which means afterwards we only have like literally probably another 2.5 weeks of episodes maybe before NHL 26 drops. So yeah, we don't really have a lot of time left to win a Stanley Cup, so this could be one of the last seasons we get a chance to do so. So hopefully we could get it done. But anyways, with that said, let's get your guys' comments, see what you guys have to say about last episode. Then I'll show you guys what Chicago looks like again, just in case you forgot. And then we'll get into this first round matchup against the Blackhawks. So the first comment is from 2-Bit Productions LV, who says, I predict a 4-1 win for Edmonton. So he thinks we're going to be able to beat them in 5. I mean, I don't know about beating them in 5. I feel like we could beat them, but I feel like it's still definitely going to be maybe more of a tough series because they finished 49, 29, and 4. So I feel like it could still go to maybe like a game 6 or 7. But if we do find a way to beat them in less games, that would be very nice. Obviously, we're hoping that we don't lose in less games than 6 or 7. So hopefully it's a decently close series for the most part, unless we're on that favor where we end up beating them by a convincing score. So hopefully we could get going in the playoffs. We were really good in our last 10 games going into the playoffs. Meanwhile, they weren't. So I'm a little bit scared on that sense. So hopefully our team can kind of figure itself out in the playoffs as well. And the last and final comment is from Sound Otaku. Says, considering how strong you were as a road team and how first line heavy the Hawks are, I don't think you'll have much trouble beating them. And that's an interesting one. I didn't even think about our road record really. Actually, maybe I did think about it. I can't remember. But one thing that was crazy during the season is despite us having a 47-30-5 record, you could see if we go all the way over here, our road record was actually really good. Our home record was somehow below 500, which is really strange, but we were 28-9-4 on the road. So starting off the playoffs on the road against a team like Chicago, maybe we have a little bit of a psychological edge because we've been such a good road team so far. So let's hope that we can kind of build off that road success that we had during the regular season and transition it also into the playoffs. So let's show you guys once again what Chicago's looking like. Here's what they look like. They're pretty top line heavy, like Simon Taku was saying. Ladd, Toews, and Kane. This second line's actually not too bad either, though. I say Bufflin's obviously a legit like second/first liner. Apparently Nathan Gerby's a legit second liner, and same with Jaden Schwartz. So solid top 6. Their third line is pretty good too. They do have a couple guys that are listed as depth forwards, but Buchnevich is a nice little pick up there. And then fourth line wise, they have all these depth forwards as well. So technically, a lot of guys are listed as depth forwards on this team, but they do still have very good offensive core. Their defensive core is also not too bad either. Guys like Yoni Pikkanen's a pretty solid top 6 option. Duncan Keith has dropped off a lot, but he is still good. Same with Seabrook. And then they do have the good goaltending too. So I think this is still going to be a pretty even matchup, and I could definitely see it maybe going to 7 games in this first round, depending on how we play on the road in the series. So with that said, I think we're ready to get into the start of the series. We'll keep our lineup the same for now, and obviously if we need to make adjustments, we will. But hopefully we can find a way to win in this series and find ourselves into that next round. Alright, so let's move my face down here, and let's get to game number 1 on the road in Chicago. See if we could contain Taves and Kane at least, because like I said, I think those are the main players we need to contain, and if we could find a way to contain them, I think we obviously have a better chance at winning the series. So let's see what happens here. First period, game number 1. 1-0 Blackhawks. Not a great start, and of course Patrick Kane's the one that scored. So like I said, we need to contain Kane and Taves, and so far not off to a good start on that note. But shots are 9-2 in favor of them, yet we're only down by a goal. So I don't like that we only had 2 shots in that first period. Definitely need to generate a little bit more chances, and I don't like that we're down by a goal, but at least it's only a goal. So it was a decent start for Vasi, but we need to be a bit more disciplined, I guess, and we also need to generate more chances. Can we find a way to tie this game up in the second period? Second period? 2-1 us. Okay, we do take the lead. That's nice. And both goals from Holden, of all people. That's an interesting one. Dale Holden had a pretty breakout year, and he ties the game up, and then a couple minutes later, he scores again. So we are being outshot 25-11, but we do somehow have a 2-1 lead going into the third. So this is a decent start for our team for sure. Let's see if we could find a way to get some insurance in the third period and also not have them get so much shots, because they are completely outplaying us still at this point in terms of chances, but somehow we have the lead. So let's see what happens. Third period underway. Can we get some insurance in this game? Number 1, potentially. Come on, boys. Or just play good defensively the rest of the way, but we got to be careful with the amount of shots that they've been getting. So far, Vasi seems to be on his game, which is a good thing. Penalty kill, and they tie it up, and it's Patrick Kane again. So we got to be very more disciplined going forward, because it seems like when we take penalties, that's when they seem to burn us. And of course, most of the time, it's Patrick Kane. So yeah, got to be more disciplined. Got to generate more shots on goal, because they're outshooting us 39-17 at this point. Like, we're kind of lucky that we're actually going to an overtime in this game. Like, we have definitely made it hard for us. Metropol took that penalty in the third. So we've only had 2 penalties, and they've scored on both goals so far. We actually had a power play of our own, but none since then. So there's not been a lot of penalties in this game, but they're 2 for 2 on the power plays. So if that continues, we need to be obviously probably reworking the penalty kill a little bit. But shots are 39-17 in favor of them. It's a 2-2 game. Can we find a way to have Vasi just make some more saves and find a way to get that third goal to give us the win? Who wants to be the hero for us? Let's call on a random dude on the team. Who do I want to call on? Let's call on Holden again, since he's got both our goals so far. Maybe he has the hat trick in him. Overtime underway. Can we get that third one? Yes, we can. Immediately to start overtime, Nathan MacKinnon. I should have probably went with the obvious answer. Nathan MacKinnon, literally 32 seconds in. We got outshot 40-18, but we somehow win 3-2. So that's a pretty big game for Vasi. And then offensively, I would say that's a decent game, but obviously got to be a bit more disciplined in terms of just how we play a little bit. So Holden from Jenner and Shaw, Holden from Moss, and we have McKinnon from Fada and Talinka. So third line, and actually, wait, is Holden? No, Holden's fourth line, yeah. So it's literally 2 fourth line goals and then also a first line goal. So for your fourth line to be your best line is not necessarily ideal, but it is nice to see that it's showing up. Holden's the only guy with 2 points in that game, but a lot of other people had a point. And a 950 save percentage from Vasi. So let's hope Vasi continues to play like that going forward, because that was a really good first game. He gets first star of the game, of course. Patrick Kane the second star, and Holden the third star. All right, so maybe the Chicago Blackhawks are more of a power play merchant team. So if we stay more disciplined, maybe we'll be able to win some games a little bit more convincingly. So Anyways, solid start to the playoffs. We'll keep the team the same, even though we did get badly outplayed in that game and we still won it. We just got to keep it the same for now. And obviously, if we end up getting outplayed and they beat us badly, we should maybe make some adjustments. But for right now, I think keeping it the same since we won is the way we'll do it. So let's get to game number 2. As we're still in Chicago, we've been a really good road team so far in this season. Can it continue in this second game as well? First period. And it's 1-0 us. Good start. Lowry, of all people. I like that our depth scoring is showing up. I feel like that's something different than years past, because I feel like in years past we were maybe a little bit more reliant on specific people like McKinnon, Cameron. But now it seems like we're getting guys like Lowry. We're getting Holden stepping up for goals. Like, that's probably what's helping our team out a lot more so. Is like the addition of like Alto, for instance, on like that third line. It just gives us a lot more offensive options in that bottom 6. And it's nice when they do show up and score goals. So nice to see Lowry score his first career playoff goal. Shots are 11-9 in favor of us, so we're actually out shooting them for a change, which is surprising. Can we keep this lead intact in the second period? Second period? 2-1 us. Okay, so it's the exact same score line as last game. And it's very similar, too, because Lowry just scored his second goal of the night. Pickett scored for them. So Lowry's doing what Holden did last game. I was not expecting these guys to do this good here early on, but I'm really, really happy to see that. Lowry had actually a pretty good goal-scoring season, but he only has like a 2.5-star shot, so he's been definitely more of a surprise than I would have actually anticipated. Shots are 21-19, pretty even game so far up to this point, just like last game, but the question is, can we hold them off this time, or are we going to find a way somehow to go to another overtime? Third period underway. Can we hold them off? Can we get some insurance potentially? But Lowry's been good so far in this game. It was Holden last game. It would be nice if some other guys could step up here too. Just because I would like to see guys like Cameron score some goals and all that as well. But it is nice to see the bottom 6 contributing. And they tie it up again in this third period. Jonathan Taves ties it at 2. And look at that, we're going to overtime for the second consecutive game, and it's very similar to last game, where basically we had a 2-1 lead, and now it's all of a sudden 2-2. So this could end up like last game exactly, or it could be obviously a little bit different. They are out shooting us again, but not by much, 33-29, so I honestly don't really know what to expect going into this overtime. So who wants to be the hero for us in this overtime? Obviously, last game it was Nathan McKinnon. Does one of the other top line guys have it in them, or is it going to be Nathan McKinnon again? Is it going to be a bottom 6 guy who scored in regulation? Tough to say. Let's call on Marku as the random dude to shout out this time. So let's see what happens. Overtime underway. Can we find a way to win another game in Chicago? Power play, we did not score on it. That kind of sucks, but we did generate some chances. Penalty kill, got to kill this off, please, boys. Thank you. Nice penalty kill there, and then we score afterwards. That's absolutely clutch. Considering Chicago was really good in overtime, or not overtime, on the power play last game. We kill off a big penalty, and then Dale Holden wins it in overtime, of all people. So Holden and Lowry is the only 2 guys that score on our team, actually other than McKinnon, in this series. And I don't know if I should be scared that our fourth line's doing the best offensively, but I'll take it. I mean, maybe that's, like I said, a sign of things to come for our team. But final shots 43-33, so they outplayed us in that overtime, but we do get the victory. And that game's very reminiscent of the first game, where we end up winning 3-2 in overtime. So we had Lowry from Metropolitan, Mackey, Lowry from Latti, and Alto, so some nice finish assists on that Lowry goal. And then we also had Holden's third of the playoffs from Falk and Shaw. I don't know what's with that fourth line doing so well, but I am definitely not going to complain about it. And then, of course, Lowry on that third line doing well, too. Wow. All right. So I guess we are having some good results. Also, Vasilevsky again, a .953 save percentage this time around, 1.71 goals against. So Vasi has been absolutely locked in. He gets first star for the second consecutive game. Lowry the second star, and Taze the third star. So right now the Blackhawks offense has definitely been relied on Taze and Kane a little bit too much, but that's a really, really good way to start off this first round, winning both games in Chicago before we head home for Game 3. The only thing that's now a little bit concerning is our home record was not really good during the regular season. Like I said, it was below 500, but now we're on home ice. So are we going to continue playing bad on home ice in the playoffs as well, like we were doing good on the road, and we continue that into the playoffs? Or are we going to find a ways to win on home ice as well come playoff time? So let's keep the team the exact same. I do like how our third and fourth line got going. I would like to see a little bit more out of the top six, like guys like Cameron for sure. But if our fourth line and stuff like that is doing all the work for now, it's good. But obviously we need other lines to step up as well eventually. So let's get to game number 3 as we shift to home ice. Let's see if we could win another game. Hopefully it's not another overtime game because it could have went either way in those first 2 ones. But we got kind of lucky that we were able to find a way to win. So first period, game 3. 2-0 us. Wow, okay. So Moss makes it 1-0, nice defensive goal. Jenner scores, which means that's another fourth line goal. So our fourth line literally has 4 of our goals in the series, which is really weird. I didn't expect us to have that type of depth scoring in this playoffs. It definitely was at strength during the regular season, so maybe I did expect it, but holy moly. What a good start here for game 3. Shots are 11-7 in favor of Chicago, but we're up by a pair of goals. So far, so good. Both goals from very similar spots on the ice, too, which is interesting. Can we find a way to keep this lead intact in the second period, potentially? Second period? Still 2-0. Good defensive period. We are being outshot 25-14, but Vasi has been absolutely locked in this first round, which has been a very big difference maker. Obviously, those last 2 games still went to overtime, but he had .950 save percentages in both those games. And so far in this game, he is doing really well as well for our team and kind of holding us with this lead. So can we maintain this going forward? Third period underway. Let's see if we could get maybe one more goal just to make it a little bit more safe. But so far, looking decent here at this point. We do make it 3-0, and it is a top 6 goal finally, as Fada makes it 3-0. And then Marcoux will get a power play goal to make it 4-0. And it looks like we are going to be taking a 3-0 stranglehold on the Blackhawks. So I guess that one comment was definitely right as Andrew Ladd breaks the shutout on Vasi. But that final score, 4-1, as we are now up 3-0 in the series, despite being outshot in every single game up to this point in time. Final shots were 33-26 in favor of them. But yeah, 2-bit productions is definitely right for sure on how this team might simulate here in the first round. Like at this point, we might win in 4, but we still could definitely win in 5. Anyways, in terms of goals, we had Moss from Cameron, Jenner from Shaw, and Holden. So Holden's on a point streak so far, 3 straight games. Then we had Fada from Cameron and Marcoux from McKinnon and Nelson. So good to see the top 6 getting going in that game. Definitely that was a little bit more evident of them. Cameron having picked up a couple points. McKinnon having another point in the series. Marcoux, Fada, Nelson. Really good to see those guys show up. But to have the fourth line score in a third consecutive game is not what I was anticipating. So... But, yeah, Cameron had 2 assists and a lot of guys on 1 point, some good plus minuses across the board, and a .970 save percentage from Vasi. So far, everything's been working well for our team. Like, we've been playing solid enough offensively, and we're getting really good goaltending results, too. And defensively, I guess, too, for that matter. So, Vasi first star for the 3rd consecutive game, Cameron the 2nd star, and Jenner the 3rd star. So... we have taken a 3-0 stranglehold. Hopefully this is not one of those series that you get reverse swept in, because that would absolutely suck. But so far we are dominating a very good Blackhawks team. So very impressed with this series so far up to this point in time. Alright, so we might as well keep the team the same. I mean, this might end up being a really short episode, but I'll try and find ways to make it a little bit longer, or else you guys might know that somebody got swept or not. But let's get into this game 4 and see if we can pull off the sweep of the Blackhawks and get ourselves to that second round. Has any team swept so far? No. No team is actually on the verge of getting swept other than the Blackhawks, so that's kind of an interesting note. All right, let's get to game 4, see if we can pull off the sweep and get ourselves to round 2. And hopefully once we get to round 2, we don't get swept ourselves. Hopefully we find a way to continue this momentum going forward. But first period, game 4. 2-1 Blackhawks. Okay, we knew they were going to come out fighting eventually. Moss makes it 1-0, so Moss has goals in back-to-back games. McCulloch tied the game up, and then Dustin Byfuglien scores. So, not necessarily a great first period from Vasi, but once again, we are actually being outshot, so maybe he's not the blame for that. So we are down by a goal for the first time. I feel like this might be the first time in this series we've been trailing, if I'm not mistaken, so that's kind of an interesting note. Hopefully we can find a way to tie this game up in the second and not give them anything more. Second period. 3-1. I knew they were eventually probably going to win a game, but it looks like it could be this one. We are still within reach, but obviously we need a good offensive third period if we want to win this one. So Mason scores on the power play. Seems like their power play has definitely been their best thing about the series for the Blackhawks. Shots are 25-20 in favor of them. Can we claw back into this game, or is it going to be potentially exactly what 2-Bit Productions was saying, and maybe a 5-game series instead? Let's see what happens. Third period underway. Can we get a goal early to pull us within 1 maybe, and give ourselves a chance the rest of the period? So far, not looking like it. Looks like their goalie's on the game in this one so far. Yeah, it looks like nothing's happening offensively for us in this third period. Like, we are generating chances, but their goaltender's playing good. And unfortunately, the Blackhawks are not going to allow us to sweep them as Boyd gets the empty netter, and we lose 4-1 in Game 4. Final shots at the end of it were 34-27 in favor of the Blackhawks. So they've outshot us in every game so far. We're kind of lucky that we're up 3-1 because we won 2 games in overtime. But hopefully we can find a way to win this next game back in Chicago. We did score first in this game, Moss for Marcoux, but afterwards no offense. Holden's streak ends at 3 games, but definitely we need to find a way to answer to this next that game in the next one if possible, because that's definitely not our best showing whatsoever. And then there was also some bad plus minuses in the top 6. And of course, Vasi had a 909, which isn't terrible, but obviously he was much better in the first 3 games of the series. So I don't think we're going to make any adjustments yet. But obviously, if we play bad in this next game, we should make some adjustments. But if we play good, obviously, it's just one hiccup of a game, which sometimes you have that type of series anyways, where you just have one bad game, and then the rest of the games are good. So hopefully we can respond well to that loss, but it could also be a little bit concerning here that maybe this is where the series starts to shift in Chicago's favor. So with that game, that means nobody got swept in the first round, which is an interesting note as well. Let's keep the team the same still, even though that was a loss. Obviously, like I said, if we lose this game, though, maybe some adjustments should be in order. But for right now, that was one bad game. Let's not hang our heads up about it. And let's see if we can find a way to close out the series in Chicago. So far, we've been really good on the road. It would be nice to see it continue here in Game 5. So what will happen in Game 5 on the road? Will we have a good response, or will we fall apart here potentially? First period, Game 5. 2-1 Blackhawks. So similar to last game where they do score 2 goals early on us, which is not a great sign. Usually Vasi's off to a good start, but the last 2 games he hasn't been. So Schwartz made it 1-0 on a power play goal. So once again, their power play is scoring goals. Andrew Shaw ties the game up for us, so nice to see the 4th line contribute again. And of course, it's a guy that actually played for the Blackhawks at one point, which is funny. And then 6 minutes later, Mark Letestu answered back. So shots are in our favor, 13-9, but we're down by a goal. So it kind of reminds me of the early games in the series where the Blackhawks outplayed us, but we still end up losing them, or actually winning them. So the question I have now is, does this team have a response in the second period? Last game, obviously, we didn't score after the first period, so I'm hoping that this team might have learned from that mistake and finds a way to tie this game up into second, or gets the lead for that matter. So can we have a good second period and respond to a tough first? Second period. Oh my god. Okay, I am now scared. Vasilevsky's all of a sudden playing not the best, and McClement has came in and played a little bit, and he's already allowed a goal. Shorthanded goal from Andrew McDonald. That's not Andy McDonald. Patrick Kane scores. Andrew Ladd scores. Pavel Buchnevich scores. This is not looking good right now. We could have lost the series if we didn't win those first 2 games in overtime at this point too, which is also kind of scary. But we're down 6-1 going into the third. This means there's definitely some adjustments coming. Definitely a lot of inconsistencies with our team now all of a sudden. But we're still going to do a real-time simulation for this third period. But we are definitely making some adjustments for next game. Last game was a close one. This one, we've been absolutely torn apart. And now we're being outshot. So they're definitely just riding a lot of momentum here. And our team is just sitting back and not doing enough here, which is not great. Was not really expecting this after how we started this first round. But now it's not looking too good. We lose 6-1 in Game 5, which means all of a sudden it is a brand new series. So Andrew Shaw scored from Metropolitan Holden, so Holden back on the board, but that second period was absolutely abysmal. So, yikes. Yikes indeed. Any badly plus-minus players? Yes. Oh, man, yeah, we got to make some adjustments for sure. McClement came in and actually played really, really good again in 25 minutes. Vasi was absolutely dreadful, though. Yeah, Vasi having a 688 is not going to help things at all. I mean, that could be our play in front of him, but my God, that was a terrible game, and their goaltenders definitely found his game a bit, so... Yeah, we are going to make some adjustments, but I did say the series is probably going to be a close one. It could go to 7 games. Well, right now I'm kind of feeling that way still because we had a good first 3 games, but these last 2 games we've been outscored 10-2. So very different team. Very, very different. Now we are heading to home ice for game 6, so we could still close them out, but we need to make some sort of adjustments here to try and get things back to the way they were. So I think... What could I do really in terms of adjustments? I like the 4th line the way it is right now. So maybe I can move Alto up to the 3rd line. He is technically a left winger. So maybe I move him up there and then Brock Nelson could go down. Because Brock hasn't done enough for me right now with 1 assist in 5 games. So maybe we'll put him on this line with Latti and Lowry. And then Alto plays with Marcoux and Toffoli. McKinnon plays still with Cameron and Fata. And then in terms of our defensive core, I don't really know if there's much adjustments we can make because the chemistry goes bonkers. But let's do Metro and Falk and then Holinka with Mackey. And then goaltending-wise, we are still going to keep Vasi in net. But he has been pretty bad the last 2 games. Technically, McClement was good in the last little bit. He played in that last game, but I think that's what we're going to do. We could put Patrick Marleau into the lineup, but Holden has been arguably our best player right now. So I would prefer not to scratch Holden. I could scratch somebody like maybe Andrew Shaw, but he's also been good. Like that 4th line is definitely doing most of our offense right now. So I think we will probably just do the Alto and Nelson swap and see if that helps things. So hopefully this team doesn't lose 3 in a row because or else we might end up getting reverse swept, which is definitely not something we want to see at this point in the season. Obviously during a regular season, if you're playing against a team a certain amount of times and then losing against them a certain amount of times, it's not a big issue, but in the playoffs, it's definitely a big issue. So do we have a response to these last 2 games? Like I said, we've been outscored 10-2. We need to get off to a better start here. We cannot be down 2-1 after the first period like the last 2 games. So we head back to home ice. Can we find a way to respond and still close out the Blackhawks here? We have still a chance to, so can we do it, please? First period, game 6. 2-0 Chicago. Taves and Kane. And Vasilevsky apparently got pulled after the first goal against, which means did he get injured like fully or was it just an injury in game? Regardless, McClement's in net now, which is not great. Shots are even after that first period, but we're down by a pair of goals again. So the last 2 games before this, we were down 2-1 after 1 in each of those, and now we're down 2-0. I feel like we might get reverse swept unless our team figures itself out for a game 7 if we do get there. But there is still a lot of time left in this game to get back into it. We just need to have a good second period, get at least 1 goal back. Don't allow them to score anymore. We could still win this, but it's going to be an uphill climb, especially if Vasilevsky's actually injured. Can we respond in the second period? Second period. No, we cannot. Our team's offense is completely dried up. I mean, it wasn't the craziest in the first few games of the series, but the last few games of the series, only having 1 goal in each of them. In this game so far, having nothing, not great. Shots are 16-16, so it's been an even game in terms of chances, but for some reason, their goaltender went from being not great to all of a sudden really good. So I am not liking the way the series is trending at the moment. Can we have a strong third period here and maybe get this game to an overtime? Third period underway. Come on, boys. Give me an early goal. Not that way, though. McDonald makes it 3-0. Looks like we're going to be going to a game 7 after we were up 3-0, and I definitely feel a little bit anxious about it because our team looked good early on, but not since. Not since. I don't really know what I need to do to basically readjust things. I might have to move Holden higher in the lineup or something, but we lose 3-0. Which means we only have 2 goals for in our last 3 games, and we've given up 13. Oh, man, I smell the reverse sweep. I totally smell it. And, yeah, that's just quite scary. Taves and Kane scored goals in that first period, and then McDonald scored in that third. Not a terrible game for McClement, coming in relief, I would say. But obviously, if Vasi's actually injured here, too, this would be substantial loss. He only allowed 1 goal on 2 shots, played 2 minutes. McClement came in, did a pretty good job again, so if Vasi's injured, McClement might be the guy we have to run with the rest of the way. So, but yeah, Cheestov has been absolutely crazy for the Blackhawks the last 3 games. Did Vasi get hurt? Yes, he did. He bruised his foot. He will not be back for a month, which is not a good timing for that. So Vasi was playing very good in the first 3 games. Last 3 games played not very good, and now he bruises his foot, and he says, hey, you guys have to rely on a young goaltender for Game 7. So, McClement, you're the man. You've been good so far, so maybe he could be an underdog and help us win, but I don't like that we have to call up a 74 overall as our backup option, but it's got to be done. I kind of wish we had like a depth veteran goalie or something maybe, but we are going to have to make some other adjustments elsewhere. But McClement has been good, like I said, in the games he's played. Yeah, just to lose Vasi is not great. Vasi's not had a good stretch in the last few years. He's been injured quite a bit. But McClement's going to get his first playoff career start. He's came in relief multiple times, has a .940 save percentage. So I think he's been a very good goalie, of course. But is he ready for a Game 7 scenario? Who knows? And like I said, Vasi's had a lot of injury trouble in this franchise mode here for some reason. Regular season, you can see like before this year, he missed a lot of games in 2033. I think he missed some games that year as well. And that was it. So these 2 years, he missed a good chunk of games, especially in 2033. Playoff-wise, yeah, he got injured in the one where we had a good run. He got injured in 2031. And since then, he's been a bit more healthy, but that's interesting. So he got injured in the long run that we had last time. So maybe that means we'll have a long run this time if our young goalies play good. It's too bad I can't use this guy as a backup because of his last name. Oh, boy. All right, let's make some other adjustments here in a second. Let's just go back so that way we could get that set up the way we want to a little bit better. So it signed us a guy named Korpikari. Hopefully that means the AHL team will still have a good playoff run if they are still in the playoffs. But yeah, we're going to have to make some adjustments here without Vasi. Yeah, because he's out for an entire month. So if we even get past the Blackhawks, we're going to have to go through some other teams without Vasilevsky, which isn't going to be easy. It could be done, but obviously putting a lot of pressure on somebody like McClement. Like he's almost like playing like what Cam Ward would have done for the Carolina Hurricanes if he could find a way to win us the cup this year. So, all right, in terms of our team, do I want to make any adjustments? Who has been really bad defensively or not good offensively? That top line has actually been pretty tragic. Yeah, McKinnon, Cameron, and Fada has not worked at all. So I think because of that, Fada's actually listed as a third-line scoring forward, which is insane too. We are going to put Fada down on the third line because he needs to be much better. We are going to try another thing where maybe we move Holden up to the top line. Holden actually fits his top line better than some of the other dudes. And then we'll move also back down to this line here. Who's actually a good face-off guy down on this line other than Lowry? Lotte could win face-offs. We'll move Lotte down the middle. And we will put Lowry as the fourth line center spot, even though Jenner wins face-offs better. We'll move Nelson and Alto around. We're just basically flip-flopping things as much as possible here just to see if it kind of finds a way to get our team a win. And aside from that, I can't really make much adjustments on the defensive core because the chemistry gets butchered to shit. I could swap Falcon Mackey, but I don't think that's necessary. Let's go back to these defensive pairings. And then Ricardo McClement, let's hope that you could do well for us. So, a lot of offensive adjustments. Dale Holden gets a big opportunity because he's been our best player so far as playoff run with Cameron and McKinnon. Then we do Toffoli, Marcoux, and Nelson, so that line's been together before a bit. And then we have Alto, Lotte, and Fada. Fada getting demoted to the third line's not really what I want to do, but he has been pretty bad so far, and that top line does need a change-up. So, and then Lowry goes to the fourth line, which is probably not where I would want him. But it is for at least just the rest of this series against the Blackhawks. If we get to the second round, we can make some adjustments. All right, so with that said, I think we're ready for Game 7. I am nervous as hell for Game 7 because I haven't been reverse swept in quite some time. Now, what's interesting to note, though, is it says on the bottom of the screen that the starting goalies are Corey Crawford and Ricardo McClement. So even though their goaltender got them back into the series, it looks like Corey Crawford might be starting Game 7, which is very weird. Because if we go to their goaltenders, both of them are 84 overalls. Cheestov has gotten them all the way back to a Game 7 with some really good performances. You can see 3-1-2 this playoff run. But for some reason, they're going to go with the other 84, it seems like. And Corey Crawford likely starts this game. He has not been very good in the playoffs last year. So maybe we have a psychological edge because Corey Crawford's coming into a weird spot. I don't know why they're starting their backup in this situation. I'm guessing it's just because they're the same overall. If he was a lower overall, they wouldn't be doing that. But that is a really weird choice by the AI to do that. So I guess we'll find out if them going to Corey Crawford was a bad decision or not. But we go to our young goalie McClement because of Vassie's injury. Let's get to Game 7 in Chicago. We've been a good road team all season. We had one loss here in the playoffs where we lost 6-1 on the road. But if we could win this road game like we were winning road games earlier on, we could go to the second round. So we've trained all season for a road win. Let's see what happens here. Game 7 in Chicago, real-time sim. See if we could get off to a better start than these last 3 games. Because if we could get off to a better start, that might help things. Metropolitan makes it 1-0 immediately, which is a great way to start off a first period of Game 7. So that's nice to see a DFD score as well. Large penalty kill there by the boys as we had a 5-on-3 penalty kill to kill off, and we did it. So that's very good to see early on. And then we get an insurance marker after the late in the first. Brock Nelson scores on Crawford. So maybe the AI just all of a sudden was just like, you know what? I toyed you enough to get back to a Game 7. I'm going to do you a solid and put in the worst of the 2 goalies. Corey Crawford allows 2 goals on 11 shots. We're up 2-0 after 1. I don't know why they have their other goalie in. I guess it's just because they're the same overall, but still, this choice definitely could hurt the Blackhawks quite a bit. There is still a lot of game left to go, though, so let's have a good second period here, and let's not allow them to get back into this game. Second period. And so far, McClement's been good, which is nice to see. Lotte makes it 3-0. That's a pretty big goal at this point. But McClement's playing good so far. Cameron makes it 4-0. The Blackhawks coach is probably going to get fired after a game like this. They play that one goalie that gets them back to a Game 7, and then Corey Crawford just falls apart here. Mason made it 4-1, but Mackey makes it 5-1 with an answer. And we're going to be up by 4 goals going into the third. Huge response from this team, which is great. Obviously, still a lot of playoffs left to go, hopefully. But, hey, McClement might be able to get us back into the playoff run with Vassie being out. So, shots are 23-18. We're up by 4 goals. We should be able to lock this down. Can we do it? And can we close out Chicago in 7 games? Bone Jenner makes it 6-1. Now we're finding our offensive game. Falk makes it 7-1. Looks like everybody's trying to score in this game because our last 3 games we haven't scored. Yoni Pikkinen makes it a 7-2 game. But we're up by 5 goals at this point. Penalty kill again. Stop taking penalties. We get a short-handed goal from Lotte to make it 8-2. And that will likely be the final. Yes, it will. We win 8-2 in Game 7. That's probably the most crazy Game 7 I've had in a while. Corey Crawford allows 8 goals on 37 shots. I have no idea why they put him in net. But we do win because of that decision by their coach, which means the coach is going to have literally people calling for his head at this point. But that's a huge win for us. We do head to the second round as we avoid the reverse sweep. So Metropolitan from Toffoli and Mackey, Nelson from Holinka and Falk, Lotte from Falk and Alto, Cameron from McKinnon and Holden, Mackey from Toffoli and Lotte, Jenner from Lowry and Holinka, Falk from Alto and Shaw, Lotte from Lowry and Moss. I didn't realize how much Finns we have on this team. Mackey, Lotte, and Alto. That's pretty funny. All right, let's take a look at some stats here. So, yeah, 3 points from Falk and Lotte. Couple guys on 2 points, Holinka, Alto, Lowry, and Toffoli, and Mackey, actually. So, the 3 Finns all had multi-point games. And then a bunch of guys on 1 point as well. Everybody on the team had points except for Marcoux, Fada, and Rodriguez in that one. And then goaltending-wise, McClement has been actually really good. So is McClement going to put on his best Cam Ward impression and win us a Stanley Cup this year? Because he could honestly do it. I could see it. Lotte first star, Falk second star, and McClement the third star. So despite that big loss of Vasilevsky, we are going to the second round. Definitely it was a tough series. I definitely expected to go to Game 7. It did toy us that we were going to be able to easily beat them, but to beat them in 7 games feels nice. Now, hopefully, we can find ways to beat whoever's next as well after this point. So, let's take a look at some player stats after that first round, which was an up and down first round. And then we'll see who we're going up against in round 2. But, yeah, I was not expecting guys like Holden and Shaw to be necessarily leading our team in points. But Holden 6 points, Shaw 5 points. You had Lackey and Lowry on 4 points. And a bunch of guys on 3 and below. Obviously, our top 6 should be doing a little bit more. But the depth scoring, absolutely fantastic. Everybody on the forward group had at least 2 points. And then from a defensive standpoint, good depth scoring as well on the defensive side of things. Rodriguez was the only guy to not pick up a point in that first round. And every single defenseman of ours had 3 or more points, which is awesome. Goaltending-wise, Vasi was really good at times, also really bad at times. Now he's injured, but McClement is looking really good here early on. And he was like that during the regular season too, so I do feel safe with McClement being our starter, but obviously it would have been nice to have Vasi for this entire playoff run, but looking pretty good at this point. Obviously, we could readjust our lines going into the second round back to the way they were, or we could kind of keep them like this for the time being. But the question I have is now, who are we playing in round 2? The answer will be, is it going to be another road start? Yes, it is. We are going to have a Battle of Alberta in round 2, which is kind of exciting, but also not so much. We've played them in the before in the playoffs too, I think. But this should be an interesting matchup. So it's us in Calgary, Columbus, and Nashville in the second round. So Barkov, Sagan, Taylor Hall are in the playoffs against the Blue Jackets. Then in the East, you have Buffalo and Washington. Interesting to see Buffalo actually doing good at this point. And you have Pittsburgh and Tampa. So Pittsburgh and Tampa are probably the 2 favorites, actually, and Washington. I'd say the Eastern Conference is definitely still the favorite at this point, but it would be nice if we could find a way to go on a good run this year. So with that said, let's take a look at the Calgary Flames. We do not have home ice advantage despite having more wins, because remember, I think we had the exact same amount of points during the season, correct? Let's take a look at this. Yeah, we had the exact same amount of points during the regular season, but the regulation wins, that part made the difference, and that's why they have home ice advantage in this first round. So this might be a pretty even matchup based on that, but it will be interesting. Actually, let's do a regular season comparison, and then we'll look at playoffs as well. But they were scoring more goals than us during the regular season. They scored 30 more total. We were a better defensive team, so they're better offensively, we're better defensively. Their power play was actually better than ours, and their penalty kill was tied with ours, but they were much more disciplined, which is interesting. We had 5 more shorthanded goals, and they were a pretty solid team on both home ice and the road. So this will be a very interesting matchup. Both teams are 7-3 going into the playoffs as well, so this could be a great even matchup. So far, if we look at a playoff comparison, though, both of us are similar offensive teams. They're 5th. We are 8th. Goals against per game, they are 4th. We are 9th. Power play percentage, they are 7th. We are 13th. And penalty kill, they are 1st. And we are 8th. So they're definitely better than everything right now in the playoffs. But obviously that doesn't really matter until you actually get into simulations. So let's take a look at what Calgary's looking like. We did play them, I'd like to say recently. I don't remember how many years ago. But let's take a look at this Flames team. First line, 38-year-old Daniel Sedin playing next to Mikhail Backlund, who's 30, and Ross LaBarbera. Very good top line still at this point. Second line, a couple of former Caps, Tom Wilson and Evgeny Kuznetsov playing with Kevin Hayes. Solid second line. Third line, Igor Gogolev, who's generated, same with Steven Tamura, and Connor Brown. All right, Connor Brown. Fourth line has Gustav Zafinasenkov generated as well, Peter Holland, and Zach Boychuk, who did play with us at one point in time. All right, that's a pretty good forward group. Good depth down the middle, same on the wings. Maybe a bit weaker on the right side, but LaBarbera's good as a first-line guy. So yeah, that's a very solid team offensively. From a defensive standpoint, Josh Morrissey has made it. Last time we played them, I think in the playoffs, Josh Morrissey hadn't made the NHL yet, but he's now 3 years into his career. Still hasn't found his offensive game, but he's a very solid defenseman in terms of his defensive play, at least this season. Still on his uprise. He's listed as a top 2 D-man as well, so he's generated some really good growth. He's playing with Justin Schultz, and I forgot about that because Justin Schultz was an absolute unit of a defenseman this year. 60-point defenseman. After like a brief tenure in like Philly and Anaheim, he has found his offensive game a lot. So Justin Schultz is a bit scary to go up against. Kind of reminds me of when the Sens played like the Penguins in the playoffs back in those days. But there's Justin Schultz. There's Alex Edler playing with TJ Brody. Good second pairing. And then their top 6 pairing has Jake Gardner and some guy named Lou Chorney. But that's a very good defensive core. Maybe one of the strongest defensive cores we've seen in this franchise mode. A lot of good defensemen. Like every single defenseman except for Chorney is literally listed as a top 4. And then from a goaltending perspective, they have James Reimer and Jonas Hiller. I'm kind of surprised that Reimer's their starter now, but not fully. He's had a really good playoffs at this point, but Hiller's been a really good goalie in this franchise mode as well, because you can see 2 Vezinas and Jennings at this point. And I'm pretty sure he got them far in a playoff run one year. Yeah, he came 1 win shy of winning a Stanley Cup for them back in 2031, so 5 years ago at this point, or 4 years ago at this point. So, yeah, the Flames are a good team. Very good team. And then they have actually still Matt Stage in there, but he's dropped off a cliff. Vinny Hednestroza as well, and some guy named Jose Staubitz, who's got medium elite potential as a goalie, but he's just a healthy scratch. So yeah, that's a really good team. Good offense, very good defensive core, and then the goaltending is solid too. So it is going to be a very tough matchup, but obviously both these teams were really similar during the regular season in terms of points. Maybe we have a chance to beat them. I don't really know, but it's going to be definitely a close battle, I think, again. So I could definitely see the series going to 7 games just like the one against the Blackhawks, but obviously it could end a lot quicker than that. But if we find a way to beat them, I think it's going to be a tough conference finals if we do find a way to face Nashville. Nashville obviously has a really good team. I'm not sure what Columbus looks like at this point. I think they've won a cup recently or been into a finals. Yeah, I think that was last year. I think if I remember last year, they took on Philadelphia in the cup finals, but I could be completely wrong with that. And then Buffalo, no idea what they're like. And then Washington, Pittsburgh, and Tampa are all good teams. So I think regardless, we're going to be an underdog as we go through this playoffs, but it's nice to kind of start it off on the road again just because we've been a good road team up to this point in time. So that's going to do it, guys, for this episode of our Edmonton Oilers Throwback 2010 franchise mode. So in next episode, we will take it to the second round of the playoffs against the Calgary Flames as we look to build off a interesting first round against Chicago, where we could have won earlier, but we won in 7 games. So maybe this series will be quicker. Maybe this next one will actually be another 7-game series, but I'm hoping that our team can kind of build off that momentum of that Game 7 where we scored 8 goals. So I think down below, and I'll see you guys next time.